And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Bavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, more than likely, will be our final Super Show of the year, depending on what happens a little bit later on next winter when we get back to the end of college football season and the NFL. But nonetheless, a wild week in college football and in the NFL. We had the national championship game just take place a couple of days ago between Indiana and Miami. The NFL divisional round as well took place this past weekend. Now we know the national champion in college football, as well as the final four teams in the NFL's postseason, and we get one step closer to crowning a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, absolute pandemonium in the national championship, and to spoil it or not to spoil it, but we actually had a game worth watching to the very end.
Yes.
And over the last couple of years, let's say last at least 4 or 5 years for the national championship, that hasn't been the case. So I'm
I
glad this
haven't.
went down the wire.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week. I don't think there's been a championship game that's been this close and had this much dramatics to it since maybe when Tua got replaced Jalen Hurts in the national championship game back
You're
in.
talking that's almost a decade ago now.
Yeah, like they did that was like 2018, 2019, whatever the
Yeah.
year that was. It's been a while since we've had a championship game worth the hype. And this game had everything going into it. You had so many storylines, of course, going into this game. The Indiana turnaround, the Miami Hurricane trying to win their first championship since 2001. Mendoza playing in his own form, playing in his home state of Florida. Miami playing in their own home stadium, getting that chance to not to be the quote unquote hosts for this game. And as you mentioned, this game really was a really big game for these two teams. It was really, you know, early on, it looked like Indiana was maybe going to steamroll Miami. It was a 10-0 lead for Indiana going into halftime. But I think if you asked any Indiana fan, they probably thought that this game should have been a lot more lopsided the way they played in that first half. The second half, Miami started to get somewhat of a wind and started to finally get back into this game. You saw a big rushing touchdown from Mark Fletcher that put them on the board 10-7. They got the ball back, had a chance to do something after forcing Indiana to punt. They go three drive. They're then forced to punt. Their punt gets blocked and Scoop and scored in the end zone. So Indiana goes into the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. Miami responds with a touchdown to put them up by 3. Then we saw arguably, a lot of people were giving slack on Fernando Mendoza for not having that quote unquote Heisman moment this season. But he had a Heisman / number one draft pick overall moment late in the fourth quarter. 4th and 5 at the Miami 12. Mendoza keeps the ball on a quarterback draw. He breaks a couple tackles, gets into the end zone to put Indiana back up by 10. Miami, though, would respond just about 3 minutes later with a touchdown and put them within 3. Indiana had a chance to end the game late with under 2 minutes left. They had at one point a 2nd and 1 inside of Miami territory, but a false start pushed them back 5 yards. They then were not able to convert the first down, so they went up by 6 with a minute 42 left. So a chance for Carson Beck and company to go down the field and potentially win the national championship. They got as close as to, I believe, around the 40-yard line of Indiana, but unfortunately for Carson Beck and company, Beck throws an interception with about 40 seconds left, sealing the fate for the Hurricanes and giving Indiana a national championship for the first time in program history. The first team to ever go 16-0 since the 1894 Yale Bulldogs. That's a stat I never thought I would have to, bring out, but that was indeed the case. They complete what arguably is, Johnson, maybe the greatest turnaround, not even in collegiate sports history, maybe in just sports history in general.
I mean, I can't personally think of a better one. Can you?
I can't. I would have to. I would have to think about it. I don't really know one off the top of my head.
From a collegiate level, right? From on the college level. Unless you were to go to the worst, and I mean, Indiana's probably the worst Power 4 school.
They were. Winning percentage-wise, they were. 100%.
So, if they have the worst Power 4, you'd have to go to, like, maybe the worst team in, like, say, the American or the Sun Belt or the MAC. Like, I'm just trying to think of all the MAC teams, right?
Yeah.
Like, think of MAC football for a second. Um, obviously you have your kind of favorites, right? Each year.
You
So
have like Bowling Green,
like Bowling Green is a
Akron,
decent school.
Western
Like sometimes
Michigan,
Western Michigan, Kent
Central
State, right? Some of these
Michigan.
guys that have like flashes. I would say imagine going to maybe Ball State, for example, right? And taking over right now, and then 2 years from now winning a national championship. I think that's the only way it could possibly be
Yeah,
done.
it would have to be a mid major. That's the only way.
It would have to be a mid major from. I just you can't give an example. Like even in professional sports, this maybe the Marlins have a great turnaround story, and it was only for like a year because
Yeah,
after that
so
the Marlins die. Like
yeah, so
it's
it's
just
funny. That was a stat I had that I was going to bring up at one point during our conversation because with the win, Indiana was going into the preseason. Keep in mind, these are odds going into the season. Indiana was 100 to 1 odds to win the national championship going into the year. The only other team since 1999 to have the same odds were the 1999 St. Louis Rams. Other teams like that, you had the 2023 UConn men's team that were 80 to 1. The Marlins, as you just mentioned, they were 75 to 1 in 2003. UConn in 2014 was 65 to 1. Then a bunch of 60 to 1 odds. The Carolina Hurricanes in 2006. Your New England Patriots in 2001. The Florida Gators back last year in 2025. And then 50 to 1 odds. You had the Texas Rangers in 2023 and the Auburn Tigers in 2010. So those were some of the crazier odds. And I think also what is really what's incredible about this turnaround, Johnson, is also looking at what Indiana was before Kurt Signetti. And, you look at what this program was. They hadn't won more than 8 games in a season since 1967, which is incredible to think that that's the case. And, you also look at what this team had going into this game. They were a team that going into this postseason only had 3 bowl wins in its entire program's history. They won 3 straight bowl games en route to getting a national championship for the first time. And this was a team, Johnson, as well, that was 3-9 the year prior to Kurt Signetti taking over, and he's gotten 2 straight college football playoff appearances, and now, of course, a national championship.
you know what, Nick? I figured it out. All right, this is like if Jason Candle, who just got hired at UConn, moves him into the Big 12 within 2 or 3 years, and then gets him a national championship by like year 4. That's the only thing that's going to be more impressive.
Maybe, yeah,
That will be absolutely only thing that can be more impressive on a college level. So,
right,
and you know what? Kurt Signet waited his entire life for this too. He
yes,
was in the shadows of many great football coaches. He started his career 40 years ago. I think he was at Pittsburgh as a GA. He bounced around Power 5 programs. He was under Nick Saban at Alabama. I think he was at NC State before that. And then he took a bunch of lower level jobs. Like he took a D2 job just to get his name out there. Then he goes to Elon. Then obviously he goes to James Madison. Turns that whole program around too. Like James Madison is this perennial mid-major powerhouse now. Takes them from FCS to FBS in that transition period, and joins Indiana. First year goes 11-2, now 16-0. This is the greatest turnaround all time, and I want to say we keep on talking about Indiana. We have to talk about Miami.
yeah,
Isn't it a little embarrassing that Indiana had a better showing? I know it's the largest living alumni base in the country, over 800,000 living alumni.
yeah.
But this was in the city of Miami, and they had equal tickets distribution. Like this should have been advantage Miami.
I think the stature of Miami football hasn't been the same since the early 2000s. And I think you gotta remember too, they
Yeah,
moved
but think
away
about it. Like
from their
Indiana football never had anything. So like
right.
I
No,
don't think that's fair in this situation, this
no.
comparison.
What I'm meaning is I'm not discrediting that. I agree it was a bad turnout for Miami. They should have had more fans going to this game. I think at the end of the day, that not a lot of people really in Miami care about their teams at this point because even like the sports teams, I know like they don't like you look at what the Marlins did twice. They won a World Series and then really not to their fans' fault. It was more of the ownership's fault for trading away players, but the attendance has been in the lower half of the MLB every single year. You look at football, the Dolphins' attendance is not great. And again, could be all again towards the
And no,
teams.
Nick, you're right because Miami's kind of a bandwagon city, and I think this is another indication of that because for me, one of the final nails in the coffin were during the Heat Spurs series when right before Ray Allen hits that incredible shot from that rebound from Bosch. Fans were leaving the building. Like there were people already outside the building, and then I heard it was going to overtime. They tried to get back in. They couldn't let them back in. So you had fans leaving.
I'm hoping that this
NBA
game
Finals game leaving early.
I'm hoping that this game does bring back some of the lore and, prestige to the Miami football because when Miami is good, that does make the sport better, in my opinion. Whether you like them or you hate them, bringing back the nostalgia of Miami football, it's nice to see because you saw it on Monday. A lot of the old players, guys like Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Michael Irvin, we've seen them all postseason long, but seeing those guys coming back to the program and seeing that, hey, listen, it's been a while since we've gotten to this stage, but this is a stepping stone potentially for us to maybe get back into the top tier of college football because it hasn't been like that for over 2 decades for this university. So this is a good stepping stone. And keep in mind, they weren't that close and far off from winning this game. They were 40 yards away from getting the go ahead and maybe
Nick, this
potentially
just
winning
makes me
touchdown.
feel if this was a 70-30 Miami crowd, they could have won it.
Maybe, yeah.
Because they got called for delay of game in their own home stadium because they
Yeah,
couldn't
that
hear.
was bad. That was bad.
That's bad.
That was to start.
That's
That was to
poor.
start the final drive. Yeah,
It's just it's poor and
yeah. I think
it's not entirely on the players. It's not entirely on the
no.
players. The fans didn't show up.
Listen, again, this is a team, and I think this is the biggest credit to Miami. This is a team that was not even supposed to be in the in this quote unquote tournament when it started because they looked like they were done after the 2 losses they had in the ACC play. They got in because they beat Notre Dame earlier on in the season, and to their credit, they beat some really strong teams. They beat Texas A&M on the road. They beat Ohio State, the defending national champion. They were in an absolute battle with Ole Miss the week prior. They beat 2 SEC teams and a Big Ten powerhouse to get to this national championship game, and they were inches away from beating arguably the next powerhouse potentially in college football in Indiana. But it just didn't get the job done. So hopefully for their sake, maybe they get the job done in in the next couple of years. It's going to be up to Mario Cristobal and company to do that and make sure that they can get the job done. But I think something also about what Indiana did in this game, Johnson, and what it's been really impressive is you look at, we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago. This team is still improving in the next couple of years. They've got some really big transfer portal guys coming in for next season. And I think the best thing that there could have happened in this game is probably for the NCAA's sake because winning this championship now gives a lot of other schools hope that, hey, listen, if you hire the right head coach and you get the resources from your, respective alumni or whatever from your university, you maybe could be in the same spot Indiana is right now, where you go from one of the laughing stocks in all of college football to now a national champion. And that's how I looked at it. I don't know if you felt the same way, but it feels like anyone realistically could make the case that, hey, maybe this could be us in a couple of years.
Yeah, and I guess time will only tell. And
Because
Nick, before we move on,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think the other thing also is you and I have always talked about NIL and how that's bad for how people think it's bad for the sport. I think in cases like this, it's making it a good case that it is somewhat better for the sport because it gives teams hope to maybe get the job done.
yeah, people love to shame NIL, but you have to also have a good coaching staff too, because you can have a $40 million team and still come up short. So
And the last thing I'll bring about the game is, I think the funniest part. I don't know if it's really funny. Maybe it's more of a cinematic type of thing. I don't know if you noticed the player that got the game-winning interception, Jamari Sharp. He's the nephew of Glenn Sharp, who, if you remember, was the cornerback that got called for that pass interference in Miami's last national championship game when they lost to Ohio State. So you can't really write this stuff up. It's kind of
fun
just
fact.
all tied. It kind of all just tied in. But incredible game. The sport really needed it. I felt like a lot of the CFP games outside of a couple of them were blowouts. Like the Ole Miss had 2 games that were great. Indiana was blowing out every single team. We need this type of game as a college football fan, and it was a great send off to an incredible season. And now we'll see who wins it next year. Obviously, the odds are already out for preseason, but I think Ohio State, Indiana, and I think Texas were the
Way too
highest
early to
odds.
even talk about this.
Yeah,
Way too early.
like I said, it's way too early to talk about that, but I don't like to look into preseason odds that much. But Johnson, with that being said, now the college football season comes to an end. We'll see Fernando Mendoza in April in the NFL draft. And speaking of the NFL, let's talk about the divisional round in the NFL postseason that happened this past weekend. I know you're grinning from ear to ear after what happened this past weekend. So let's start off first with that game in the Mile High City between Denver and Buffalo, in a game where I feel like a lot of the talk isn't about. I know I credit. Let me rephrase this. There is a lot of talk about what happened during this game. Of course, there was a controversial play. I know you and I have already discussed this off the air. I'm not going to go too much into it. We'll discuss it at some point. I feel like a lot more about this game has been what's been discussed off the field and what's happened after this game concluded because of what happened to the Bills and, of course, what happened to Denver and a certain injury that happened in this game. But going into this game, of course, Buffalo goes up early in this one, 7-3, going into the second quarter. The second quarter was really where Buffalo kind of crumbled and really got everything going wrong for them. Josh Allen had an interception in the quarter, a late fumble before the end of the first half. The Broncos scored 10 points in just 22 seconds, which is really something if you're a team that's trying to make the AFC Championship game, cannot happen. And especially on a play where you're running a QB draw with 22 seconds and you have no timeouts. I'm not sure what Buffalo was thinking when they called that play. But regardless, they go down 10 going into halftime. It was at a 13-point lead for Denver to start the third quarter. Then Buffalo started to get things going late in the third. Keon Coleman scores a touchdown to put them within 6. They then get the ball at the start of the fourth quarter. They get the go-ahead touchdown to go up 24-23. And then later on, they're up 27-23 with 4 minutes left. But they had a chance to end the game at that point too, Johnson, in my opinion, because they had a third down play where they were trying to run a screen pass to Khalil Shakir on the outside. But Josh Allen threw the ball just a little bit too short of Shakir. And because of them not getting the touchdown on that play, they had to settle for 3 and had to settle for a 4-point lead. On the next ensuing drive, Denver goes down the field. Bo Nix throws an incredible touchdown pass to Marvin Mims with 55 seconds left. They go up 30-27 with 55 seconds to go. Josh Allen and company able to go down the field and get the game-tying field goal. An incredible job by them. And Matt Prater, the 41-year-old, still making 50-yard kicks in the AFC divisional round, which is incredible to think about at this point in the stage. But Buffalo gets to tie the game, send the game to overtime. The Broncos start off with the ball in overtime. They go 3 and out. So Buffalo's got a chance to end the game with a field goal. And then, Johnson, that's really where the controversy happened. Josh Allen on third down and about, I think, 8 yards it was, throws a deep pass to Brandon Cooks down the field. It's one-on-one coverage with him and Jaleel McLaughlin. Cooks makes the catch initially, but in my opinion, and I think you also agree with this, he had possession of it to start, and then as he was going towards the ground, he lost it in on his way towards the turf. And as that happened, the ball bobbled up, and McLaughlin made the catch as it happened. So, for what looked like it was going to be an incredible catch to set up the game-winning field goal, turns into an interception for Denver. They get the ball back. They go down the field. A couple of pass interferences as well help help the Broncos get them into field goal range. And Will Lutz kicks the game-winning field goal to help the Broncos win 33-30. An incredible, wild game between them and Buffalo. But it's Denver going on to the AFC Championship game. And Johnson, it leads to a lot of controversy and changes on the Buffalo side.
Yeah, no, let's talk about it, Nick. And you summed up the game well. I'm just going to disagree with one thing there. Well, there's a lot of things I could say, but I'm only going to really bring up that I don't think it was a catch at any point because he has to make a football move.
Well, that's what I'm
And
saying. I'm saying what I mean is what I was trying to say with that is he had it initially, and as he was going towards the ground, that's when he was losing it.
yeah, that's fair. And
I'm with you. I agree with
I
you. I don't
had
agree it was a catch
full
either.
conversations with multiple people saying, "Oh, well, his knee was already down, but he doesn't have possession. Like you have to have possession," which is like it was frustrating to talk about this with people because They
And
kept on saying that,
yeah,
oh well, yada yada yada. This is all, he had it when it hit his knee was down. Like he didn't have it. He didn't make a
and
football move. He doesn't have it. Then it's like, oh well, why is it
yeah,
ruled incomplete? Because the football does not hit the ground. We've
and you
had many
can't go by off
cases
a
of this
screenshot.
throughout the last 2 decades. And yeah, you can't go based off a screenshot. That's like going in the court. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't run the red light, and here's a picture of me, right beforehand. And then when you get the video, you see them running the red light. Like it's
Right.
it's crazy talk with the screenshots. But uh, this was their year. There was no Joe Burrow. There was no Lamar Jackson. There was no Patrick Mahomes. Hell, even the Chargers on the opposite side of the bracket. You had to beat the Denver Broncos, led by Bo Nix, who I think one of the most overrated quarterbacks this year. Almost in he didn't lead in any statistical category: touchdowns,
He had a
completion
very up and
percentage,
down year, yeah.
and he had 100 more. He had 100 more passing attempts than the both MVP candidates right now, leading MVP candidates, and didn't put anywhere close to any of their stats, whether it was their yardage, whether it was their touchdowns, whether it was their completion percentage, whether it was throwing the deep ball. None of that. And you had to beat a good Broncos defense. You had to beat a top 10 defense, which you could have done with those tools. You had one of the best offensive lines in the league. You had the best running back in the league. You had a top 5 quarterback, and you couldn't do it. So I don't know if you have a Bills where you go from here. Obviously, they had some coaching changes and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
Bo Nix broke his ankle this game, so he's out now. And if I'm a
Yeah.
Broncos fan, I'm gonna be even more angry about this because there was a clear holding call when Josh Allen was in the end zone too. It should have been safety, so the game should have ended there.
Well, I
Uh,
think that
so,
also, but
so like,
yeah,
if I'm a
go ahead, go
Broncos
ahead.
fan, not even talk about that catch. You should be, as a Broncos fan, you should be mad about that because it's a clear holding call that should have ended their season, and now you don't have your starting quarterback for the rest of the postseason. So
And it just
ridiculous.
sucks because the play that they called that he got injured on was such a stupid play call to begin with. Because normally when you see a quarterback run and slide down and set up a field goal, it's in a spot where they didn't even do it. It was like I think it was 1st and 10 at the Buffalo 38 after that pass interference was called. He ran to the left side of the field and then got tackled and lost 2 yards. But it made no sense to call the play because it's not like there was a guaranteed field goal from where they were at. That was still like a 50 plus yard field goal from that spot. So the play call was very confusing, and that's the play he got hurt on. And then it was I think a play or two later is when the second pass interference was called that set up the game winning field goal. But the Bills, let's face facts. When you could put up 30 points on this Denver defense, you should most of the time win this game. And the problem was they turned the ball over 5 times. Allen had 2 picks. He also had a fumble. James Cook also had a fumble. It really just that was the problem. That was the difference in this game. The turnovers were the biggest issue for Buffalo. Yes, if you're a Bills fan, you should absolutely be upset because, and you shouldn't be upset by the play that happened. In my opinion, that play is not the reason why you guys lost. The reason why you guys lost is because of the turnovers that happened in this game. And that play at the end of the first half is obviously the difference of this game too, because Denver gets another field goal out of it because you called that quarterback draw to end the half. That's one of the plays that cost you. You have also other plays where it just looked like they just weren't making the right play. Joey Bosa, even on that second pass interference call, he roughed the passer. So even if you don't like the call of oh, that should be intent pass interference, you still hit the quarterback well after the throw was made off by Bo Nix. It was such a badly coached way by Buffalo in this game. A lot of things could have gone better for them because Denver's offense was really not making a lot of big plays in the third quarter, which is the quarter that Buffalo should have taken full advantage of and try to take the lead and full on win this game. But they just weren't able to get the job done. And now, as you mentioned, they make a lot more changes because of this after the game is over. They fired Sean McDermott after 9 full seasons as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. They even promoted Brandon Beane, which is really mind-boggling in my opinion at this point in the time, because if you look at what Brandon Beane's done in his tenure as the Bills GM, he hasn't really done good as the GM of this team. He's drafted 2 solid, I would say 1 solid player and 1 player that has shown some flashes here and there. That 1 solid player, of course, is James Cook. And then the one guy that's shown the flashes of here and there is is Dalton Kincaid. Outside of that, those two players, they haven't drafted anyone noteworthy. And ever since Stephon Diggs left Johnson, this is the list of wide receivers that they've replaced him with: Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Mecole Hardman, Brandon Cooks, Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, Curtis Samuel, Tyrell Shavers, Mac Hollins, Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer, Gabe Davis. But they want to scapegoat McDermott for them losing this game, which credit, he had some bad coaching mishaps during his tenure. He definitely deserved to get fired, but Brandon Beane getting promoted to president of football operations is outright laughable at this point. Like, it makes no sense why they did this.
I mean, I wish I had an answer for you. I really can't
And
give it
then
to you.
I did you see the press conference also today that they did?
I saw bits and pieces. I didn't see everything.
The Pakula family is blaming the coaching staff for wanting to draft Keon Coleman, and then there are
I did see that.
videos
Yes.
completely showing Brandon Beane saying he wanted Keon Coleman in the draft. It is right. The Bills have gone from, this is what the weirdest part about this is right now, Johnson, in my opinion. When this firing happened, I think everyone could have argued this was probably the most attractive job in the NFL after all the other openings were done. I think maybe, right? I think they would be better than Baltimore, in my opinion, unless maybe you think otherwise. Do you
No,
think
I would
Baltimore's?
agree.
You would agree? Okay.
I would say probably Baltimore than Buffalo.
It's like 1A 1B in my opinion. They're really close to each other in terms of being attractive because you have an unbelievable former a former MVP quarterback you're going to inherit. But in this one press conference alone, I felt like they have taken you know the mystique of getting this job now. Because who wants to go to this team that has a lot of it feels like there's a lot of dysfunction going on with the Bagula family that has already had some bad ties with the Buffalo, the city of Buffalo from their times with the Sabres. And now, obviously, I mean, the Sabres are doing a little bit better now this season, but that's besides the point. Now it looks like they're going to really try to throw everyone under the bus. And Brandon Beane, who has really not done anything as a GM, like, it is really insane what's going on in Buffalo right now. And some of the and it's I think the other problem is too, they missed out on some of the big head coaching hires. So now who are you going to get, in my opinion, that's better than McDermott? I don't know if there is a guy right now that's the case. I know a lot of people from Buffalo listen to the show, but I just don't agree with some of the decisions that they're making right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not really sure where you even go from here. I'm just
It's really, I don't know. I do not know. Uh the next
Tomlin
game
said he's done with coaching too. By the way,
I
so he
know.
said so he's not even an option, which
Yeah.
you'd think would probably he's probably the
And I
most
think I saw the
most
list
logical
of
guy.
coaches
But
that they might bring in. Um, it's not really good though. Like some of the candidates I saw is not great. It feels like to me that it's going to be either Joe Brady, who's currently the offensive coordinator for this team, or it might be Brian Dable, who's obviously has his ties with that Buffalo organization. It really feels like it's going to be one of those two guys. So I don't know.
you're probably
I
right.
don't know. We'll see. We'll see where they go from here. They couldn't even hire McDaniel because he got hired earlier on today, or I think it was last night he got hired as an OC. But yeah, wild times in Buffalo right now. And the problem is now you feel like the window, we talk about that window. It is razor thin right now, how open it might be. It's getting closer and closer to being closed. It might already be closed at this point for the Bills. So we'll see. The next game, there really not much you can really say about this game. Seahawks just beating up the battered 49ers and advancing to the title game. This game was over on the opening kickoff when Rashid Shaheed returned the opening kickoff to put them up 7-0. 49ers, I mean, what can you really do with this offense that they have that's all injuries right now on this team? The Seahawks defense just looks like a well-oiled machine, looking like the old Legion of Boom that we saw years and years ago. And big games from Kenneth Walker as well. They lose Zach Charbonnet, which is a big injury, though, for them for the rest of the postseason. So that is a big loss. But yes, Seattle goes on to the NFC Championship game, and we'll see if they can get the job done, Johnson, and move on to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, nothing really to talk about this game. 49ers get absolutely destroyed. clamoring for Mac Jones to make an appearance as well. So that's how you know the game was going.
Yeah,
Complete domination.
they had a press conference today talking about Mac Jones and Brandon Ayuk, a couple players. It sounds like Ayuk is done with the organization. They're trying to bring back Jawan Jennings. They're saying they'd be surprised if Mac Jones went elsewhere, but if he has an opportunity to start for some other team, he might as well take it because he's
Mac
definitely earned an
Jones will be a
opportunity.
Raider.
He's gonna be a Raider.
He will be a Raider, and they're going to take an offensive lineman. That's what they're going to do.
Not taking it off. It's a lineman one. That would be funny if they did, because the Jets fans would be ecstatic if that happens, because they at least get a quarterback in the draft. Because if not, then they're gonna have to think about Mac Jones.
Only time will
But yeah,
tell.
speaking of Mac Jones, let's talk about one of his former teams, the New England Patriots. This game was very gross. And I think for your sake, you also could probably agree this game was gross, but you guys got the job done at the end of the day. 28-16, New England beats the Texans. What was it? 8 turnovers combined between the two teams.
Yeah, it was
CJ
the
Stroud
snow.
accounted for half of them.
Yeah, the
Bad.
snow. It being a snow game and not a snow game, so they really that didn't help at all.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to protect the ball more, and I think going forward they will. But New England beats back-to-back top 5 defenses. Yep, good for them. They beat top defenses, and for a team that's supposed to be not even one done the playoffs by a lot of experts, and now you have clowns like Skip Bayless and co. saying like, "Well, the Denver Broncos are going to win on Sunday." They're still discounting this team. It's crazy. Yeah, you can make the argument that their strength of schedule that was going to hurt them in the postseason, but thank God we don't have committees here in the NFL. We just play with the team that's put in front of you. Because if it's college football, yeah, maybe they would have they would have a point here. But it became that the New England Patriots didn't beat anyone good, and then it was the Chargers going to smoke them, and it's going to be fine. To like, well, the Chargers weren't that good. Now the Texans are in that defense, and I even just scored a touchdown on them. They put up multiple touchdowns. And Nick, I told you this stat off the air before, and you thought it was a fake stat that I stole from someone, but I didn't, even though it was posted later that night. The Houston Texans have played many good teams this year, Nick, and that includes many good quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
Yep. So a couple of these quarterbacks, I'm not going to list all of them. Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Bo Nix, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. They all played the Texans, right? This season, every single one of those guys. And Aaron Rodgers too. Almost forgot about him. None of them scored 3 passing touchdowns like Drake May just did on Sunday. So
I don't know if I would include Rodgers in that stat, but
I'm gonna include Rodgers. Rodgers is a good quarterback.
No, it's all right.
Listen,
He's all right.
he's definitely he's a starting
I'll
quarterback.
tell you this: I think he would have won this game for Houston instead of Stroud.
He probably would have.
He probably could have won the
Probably
game
would've.
for them. He made it's just the mistakes he made in this game were just mind-boggling too. Like,
But yeah, now they and by the way, if the Patriots win this game, it'll be the first time since a certain team almost about a decade ago, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 11, 12 years ago now, 11 years ago, went on the road and beat 3 top 5 defenses in the playoffs. You know what team that was?
I'm trying to think, 11 years ago.
11 years ago. It was either 11 or 12 years ago. I have to think of the Super Bowl year.
Oh, you could tell me.
It's Cam Newton and the Panthers.
Oh, the 20 was that the 15-1 Panthers you're talking about?
Yes, 15-1. Is that 2014?
2015.
2015. So 11 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that was Super Bowl 50, and we're going to be on Super Bowl 60 this year.
Yep, there we go. So 10 years
Funny
ago. That's
enough,
why Cam Newton probably hates Drake May so much.
And funny enough, that's the last time Denver was in the conference championship game. So it's kind of a funny wrinkle with that happening. And they played New England, which is also funny enough in that storyline too. Yeah, I'm on the Texans. I don't know what they go for. I think the turning point in this game, because in my opinion, was really I don't remember if it was the third quarter or early in the fourth. The Texans got the game to within 5, and they were in the red zone. And then Woody Marks had a play where like he stumbled, got back up, and then he got tackled and fumbled the ball, and New England got it, and that was pretty. That's when it felt like the game was over, because it felt like if they were going to have any shot to win that one, it would have been there and then. Their defense played incredible for the most part. I think there was just a couple big miss. I think the biggest mishaps that they had were because they were on the field so much in this game. You really can't fault them from being on the field this one. I'm curious what the time of possession was because it felt like they were on the field maybe
It
for
was a long time.
48 of the 60, like 48 of the 60 minutes. And it doesn't,
It was definitely a long time.
looking at it now, the Patriots had 32 minutes to 27 minutes. It didn't really feel like that. It just felt like every time Houston got the ball, Stroud was throwing a bad interception. He threw one that was a lollipop that Marcus Jones was able to easily return for the pick six. But that's a credit to New England's defense. They put a lot of pressure on that offensive line that hadn't been really doing that terrible during the season, but they were bound to get blown up at some point because it's not a really good offensive line on paper. I think the only concern maybe you have, Johnson, is maybe the offensive line for New England because they didn't look strong in this game. But it's credit to
Oh, they got pushed around.
It's
Definitely
credit to
got
this
pushed
Houston
around.
defense. It's going to be an interesting matchup with them in Denver because they're kind of similar to this Houston defense in terms of pass rush. But Drake May had some solid throws. That's all that matters. Kayshon Boutte really stepped up, especially going up against Derek Stingley. Had a big, nice one-handed touchdown reception that really sealed the game for the Patriots late in the fourth quarter. So yeah, New England's in the AFC Championship game against Denver, and the Texans now go into an offseason where they have to ponder if CJ Stroud is the guy for them. And if that's the case, that's not where you want to be if you're a franchise right now. This looked like the
Yeah.
Stroud we saw coming out of college, if you remember when he had the IQ issues and everyone was saying, "Oh man, is he going to be good?" And then he got a great rookie season, and since then has not been the same quarterback. Also, didn't help they didn't have Nico Collins in this game either, but that's besides the point. And then, Johnson, we round off our divisional round matchups with the Rams at the Bears. Another chilly night in Chicago in this matchup. It's the Rams that struck first in this game, 7-0, early on with a Kyron Williams touchdown. The Bears, though, for the most part, have been a second half team, but they've showed up in the first half of this game between these two sides. The Bears will get a touchdown to put them into a tie as DJ Moore got a touchdown reception on a fourth down play to start the second quarter. Both teams traded field goals to end the half to make it 10-10 going into halftime. It would then be scoreless third quarter. Fourth quarter, Kyron Williams got a touchdown run to put the Rams back up 17-10. And then Johnson, a crazy play late in the fourth quarter. It's about fourth, and I think it was around 3 to 5 yards. I don't remember the exact distance. They're about 14 yards away from tying the game. Season's on the line for the Bears. Caleb Williams just running backwards is something that you don't do as a quarterback when your season's on the line. He chucks up a prayer, and somehow, somewhere, they find Cole Kmet for a touchdown on fourth down to set the game into overtime, 17-17. The Rams would give the Bears the ball back after they went 3-and-out. So the Bears had a chance to go down the field and win the game with a field goal. Unfortunately, Caleb Williams throws an interception down the sideline, trying to find, I think it was DJ Moore on that play. Really tough one right there. The Rams would go down the field. They get themselves into field goal range. They kick the game-winning field goal, and the Rams move on to another rematch with the Seattle Seahawks. They win this game 20-17, the final. It's going to be Rams Seahawks Part 3 in the NFC Championship game in Johnson. The magical or devil magic run of the Chicago Bears season comes to an end.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever heard of a 42-yard, 42
Incredible.
yard,
Incredible.
14-yard touchdown pass?
Yeah. It was a play that should never have worked. And it's a play that if you play like an online video game, like a Madden or something, like that happens to
It
you
works
so often.
it works every so often in online in video games where
Yeah.
fantasy is often uh, more sought after than reality. Most people are playing realistic video games and want to have some sort of fantasy. Uh, but yeah, no, just absolute. I don't want to say carnage, but you have to really feel bad for Bears here because Caleb Williams, even though he made that great play, he played
Great
him straight out of
interception.
this game.
Yeah.
He did
Yeah.
not play well, and it's been the same Caleb Williams all year long. This is a guy that's not great throwing the football. He's really not that great trying to stay away from interceptions. He's not a really great quarterback to keep you guys on the field for a long drive, and all that gets forgiven because he makes a play like this every now and then. It's like the inverse Patrick Mahomes. For like the first 7 years of Patrick Mahomes' career, he would have these death-defying plays, and he was good in all these other categories. Where Caleb Williams is just bad in all of these categories, but oh yeah, he has these crazy plays every so often. He's closer to Anthony Richardson than he is Patrick Mahomes right now, at least in my opinion.
I don't know if I'm willing to go there because Anthony
I'm
Richardson's
saying
pretty
close.
much.
I'm saying closer to him. I'm not saying that he is, but on the scale
I
of
know,
quarterbacks,
I know what
he's
you're saying.
closer to Anthony Richardson than he is Patrick Mahomes.
I think, I think the thing is this
I'll call. How about
also.
this? Call him. He's the Patrick Mahomes of Anthony Richardson's.
Oh, we're not doing this again.
We
Who was it?
can.
Josh?
Come on.
Was it Josh Allen that you did this to
Josh
me?
Allen. Josh Allen is the Tom Brady of Jameis Winston's.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, yeah, okay, that's what it was. Anyway, I think the thing is for the Bears. I think what's good is that they're at least showing that this is a team that can win down the line. Caleb has to, of course, fix those turnover mistakes that he's had because they definitely played a factor in this postseason run. Um, he's made throws when needed the most, but he's also missed throws, which has been timely missed throws. So he's been very Jekyll and Hyde, I would say, for the most part in this postseason, for the majority of the regular season. But it was all pretty much turned a blind eye because the Bears were pulling out these wins at the very late stages of these games. So I think what the best part about this team is that they have a young head coach that I think has them in the right spot to potentially be a Super Bowl contender for years and years to come. A great roster, in my opinion, on paper. They will have to fix their secondary, in my opinion, or some parts of their defense because their defense was not that great this season. Dennis Allen did a great job, though, coaching this game against this a very, really strong Rams offensive unit. Um, but yeah, I think Caleb Williams as long as he fixes the turnover problems and starts becoming more accurate, then they'll get the job done. Because remember, Johnson, we said the same thing about Jared Goff, in my opinion, when he went to Detroit, where you were looking for the number one overall pick flashes. It wasn't there. He got sent off in the Matthew Stafford trade, and then Ben Johnson was one of the guys that were implemented him to becoming a really solid quarterback the last couple of years. If they can do that in Detroit, if you give him some time, maybe Caleb Williams can avoid those turnover mistakes and maybe get the Bears one step closer than they were this past season. So we'll see. We'll see. But it was a really strong game. I really thought the Bears were going to pull it out again after the way it happened. It just looked everything was going right their way. But yeah, he just made a mistimely throw late in the fourth and late in overtime, and that's something you can't do. That's unfortunately something that cannot happen that late in the game when you're trying to go down the field, just kick a field goal for the winner. But it also comes down to I think you mentioned it too, off the air. That first possession that they had of the game, they got into Rams territory. I think they was 4th and 3. They could have taken the field goal at that point. They went for it on 4th down, and that was the first of his 3 interceptions on the night. So that's obviously a difference in this game. If they go for the field goal and maybe make it, then they go down 7-3, and then who knows what the score is at the end of the night. So gambling man did not pay off in that end for Ben Johnson, but we'll see if the Bears get back here next season. It's going to be interesting to see if they get back to the stage of the NFL postseason. But before we go into the mushing hour, Johnson, for the NFL postseason, let's talk about some of the other coaching changes in the NFL. We talked about earlier Sean McDermott being let go by the Buffalo Bills, but we have some new head coaches being named here in this NFL coaching cycle. Kevin Stefanski, the former Cleveland Browns head coach, is now going to be coaching the Atlanta Falcons. Very good move, in my opinion, for Atlanta, whose, of course, defense was showing signs last season. Their offense, they have a lot of good playmakers there. Going to have to see what they do at the quarterback position, but they have the pieces there that maybe could potentially help them win an NFC South division title next season. So we'll see what happens for them. Jeff Hafley, the former Packers defensive coordinator, former head coach at Boston College, named the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins coming up on an interesting offseason where it looks like they'll be getting rid of Tua Tagovailoa. We'll have to go after a new quarterback. It'll be Jeff Hafley getting the helm and see if he can maybe fix that Dolphins defense that's been really shaky the last couple of years. Robert Saleh, the former New York Jets head coach, as well as San Francisco 49ers defensive coordinator, named the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans. So, a very interesting move by Tennessee, who looked like at one point was going to hire Matt Nagy as their head coach, but it is Robert Saleh that wins the job. He will be a head coach once again, and we'll see what he does if he can fix that Titans defense. And if they are able to bring in a really competent offensive coordinator, can maybe help Cam Ward develop in the next years to come. And then former Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel named the new offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. So a nice pairing with him and Harbaugh, of course, at the coaching helm. But McDaniel now will try to help Justin Herbert maybe finally get over the hump in the postseason and win some playoff games to get the Chargers as a Super Bowl threat in the next couple of years. So that's some of the latest coaching changes so far in the NFL. There are still a couple more NFL jobs left open. I think it is right now the Browns, the Cardinals, the Raiders, and I think that is it off the top of my head. Oh, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, of course. I almost forgot them. I don't know how I would have forgot those two. I think that's it after those. I don't think anyone else is fired a coach. Yeah,
I don't think so either. I
I
think
think
you're
it's
all good.
Arizona. I think it's Arizona, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Vegas. Those are the six remaining. So we'll see who gets hired in the next cycle. And I'm sure by next week, Johnson, maybe all those would potentially be filled by the time we recap the conference championship week as well as making our Super Bowl picks. But let's go into that second to last mushing hour of the NFL season, Johnson. Now, for you and I, we have to make a different Super Bowl matchup because the Buffalo Bills, who we had in the Super Bowl, are not in the postseason anymore. So we'll have to make a new pick in the AFC. Our two NFC teams are still alive between the Rams and the Seahawks. And funny enough, I forgot to mention that stat earlier. Did you know that all the coaches remaining are Mike versus Sean? So you have
I did know that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a funny little wrinkle for this championship weekend. We'll see what happens in the next in this stage, but let's get things going, Johnson, with your New England Patriots, of course, playing in the AFC Championship game against the Denver Broncos. No Bo Nix for Denver in this game, leaving the Patriots as a 4.5 point favorite on the road. 42.5 is the over/under. It's going to be the second time, Johnson, a quarterback is going to make his first start of the season in a conference championship game. The last time this has happened was when Roger Staubach started for the Dallas Cowboys in the 1972 NFC Championship game. So, with that being said, I'm assuming I know where you're going with this. Who do you have in the AFC Championship game?
Patriots minus 4.5. I mean, am I gonna pick anything else?
No, I'm not. Like I said, it's not surprised at this point. So, it sounds like you have Seahawks and Patriots, unless you're changing it to the Rams.
No, that's I'm gonna pick the Seahawks. Even though I think the Rams are the better team, I think the Seahawks will find a way to win at home.
Yeah, I'm not enthusiastic. I mean, I don't know if Jarrett Stidham can get the job done. It's kind of funny that Stidham's going to be facing the team that drafted him in this
It
game.
is. It's ironic. You have a Bill Belichick disciple in the AFC
Yeah,
Championship game the year 2026.
yeah, it's kind of crazy that that's happening. I really would have liked. Imagine if Phil Rivers wasn't signed by the Colts and they signed Phil Rivers at this point. Oh, it would have been so fun.
I said
That
let
was.
Brady come out. Listen, I don't care if he's minority owner of the Raiders. Let him play. I
I
don't care.
know.
Let him play. I want to see what he has left in the tank.
Yeah, yeah, I would like to see it. I would like to see it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't like New England. It has nothing to do with the Patriots. It's I don't know. It's just really because they're somewhat affiliated with Boston. Not saying they are from Boston, Johns. I know we always get through that argument. It's just maybe because the Boston fans root for them. I'll just say Denver plus 4.5. I don't really know my reasoning for it. I think I'm going to just trust their defense to get the job done. The biggest thing that they need is if they can get J.K. Dobbins back, that would be a huge get for them because they at least can maybe try to run the football because you have to take as much pressure as you possibly can and off of Jarrett Stidham in this matchup. So I'll go with Denver plus the 4.5, but I am not confident whatsoever that they get the job done in this game against New England in the AFC Championship game. And then Johnson, why don't you preview the NFC Championship game?
We got two great teams here, one versus two, right? Just like everyone drew it up. And by everyone, I mean the Seahawks were the biggest of long shots, plus 6,600 to win the Super Bowl beginning of the year. And the Rams were, they were the Rams. So we have Seahawks at home. Rams are visiting them. Seahawks are 2.5 point favorite. 46.5 is the slate over under. Give me the Seahawks minus 2.5. Hawks to cover.
I will go with the Rams plus 2.5. Might as well just stick with the team that I picked to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of this mushing hour this postseason. So, again, remember the Rams should have won the second time these two teams met back in Seattle a couple months ago, and a lot of things went wrong for them in the second half of that game. They haven't looked that great this postseason, so that's definitely a concern for this team. And the Seahawks, of course, just absolutely just destroyed the 49ers. But I think the Rams have just enough to get the job done and win this game. I'll take them plus the 2.5, and I will have them taking on the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl this upcoming February. I do have the Broncos covering, but I think New England gets the win regardless.
And that's going to wrap up our mushing hour.
So, who do you have winning the Super Bowl? Since you have Buffalo originally.
Oh, the Seahawks, of course.
I know what you're doing.
The Seahawks.
You know what?
Patriots. No, you have to think. What are you changing? You have had Rams all year. You got to change it
into the Patriots. I know what you're doing.
Unbelievable.
I know exactly what you're doing. And you weren't happy when I was trying to sell you that you were going to win this weekend. So now I'm gonna speak it into existence on the podcast,
ladies and gentlemen, or probably because according to my demographics, 90% gentlemen. This is fraud. This is election interference. He is putting bad juju out there. He is trying to mush my team.
Hey, listen, I gotta do something. I have nothing else better in my life. I'm a Giants fan. I'm on my 7th head coach since like Tom Coughlin was fired. Yeah, I have to laugh at something at this point. My team's a joke as it is. Yeah, but that's just too easy to laugh at the Jets.
Never gets old. Trust me.
You know what? You know what you and I could laugh at? You want to laugh at Brian Kelly real quick before we wrap up tonight's show?
No, Brian Kelly was framed.
Do you want to hear some of the players Brian Kelly had on the roster one year?
Sure.
Jaden Daniels, Kayshawn Boutte, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, Will Campbell.
That's pretty good.
He had them all in the same offense, and they went to the Cheez-Its Bowl.
The Cheez-Its Bowl is really good.
I'm not saying it isn't, but you can't.
Are you saying you're better than King Cheez-It?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying if you could have get to a CFP appearance with that roster and that offense, it doesn't shock me you're not coaching right now in college football.
All right, let's end the show. I'm not slandering this guy anymore. Let's end the show.
You love slandering Brian Kelly. I thought you would be.
Brian Kelly did deserve it.
About this.
He did not. No, he didn't.
Let's end the show, Johnson. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. The college football season has come to an end. The Indiana Hoosiers, I can't believe I'm saying it, are the 2025-26 national champions, completing one of the craziest turnarounds in all of professional sports history. Now that season comes to an end, we get closer to the end of the NFL season. We go into Conference Championship week this week. Patriots at the Broncos in the AFC Championship game. Rams at the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game. Who will get the job done in those two championship games? We'll recap those two games next week, as well as making our picks for who wins the Super Bowl and who will get Super Bowl MVP at the end of the night on Super Bowl Sunday. For Nicholas Pavone and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.